This will be curious. How did Iran take down the American F-35? Before I dig into the how of the story, what is the F-35? The F-35 is currently the most advanced American fighter jet. The only fighter jet that is ostensibly supposed to be more modern than it is still in the lab. It's not even in a production yet, and that is the F-47. As things are, the F-35 is the baba of all of them at this time. No country, even China, even Russia, has ever succeeded in downing an F-35 successfully. So how did Iran take a shot successfully at the F-35? What did they do? They simply looked away from what the manufacturers and engineers of the F-35 focused on. What did the engineers of the F-35 focus on? They focused on radar. They believed that the only way the F-35 can be, picked up, can be rendered visible, was to be able to pick it up with the most advanced radar equipment. So what did they do? They overcoated the F-35 with anti-radar material. For example, they discovered, they cooked up and discovered radar evading paint. They painted it with it. Number two, they gave it a very complicated system of flares that essentially shroud it and render it invisible even more from radars. Number three, they gave it a particular design and shape such that when it moves, it essentially moves in the order, do you understand, of the elements as it flies in the sky. That way, further giving it even more stealth, qualities, which is essentially the inability of radar to pick it up. To assist it even further, they ensure that its weapons bay and its heat exhaustion that the area for those two were as minimized as possible. That way, radar will find it even more difficult to pick it. So, after having done all those, the F-35 was effectively certified as an invisible fighter jet. And in fact, America used to use it as such. America used to fly F-35s into highly contested, war theaters, believing that nobody and no radar could see it until the Iranians looked in a different direction and they saw it. What was the direction the Iranians looked at? They looked at it from the heat signature direction. You see, even humans, I'm sure you've not met any human that exhausts heat, right? Even humans, simply for the fact that we are alive, we emit what? We emit heat. We emit heat. We have what we call a heat sensation. That is why there are particular goggles, do you understand, that is worn such that when you wear those goggles, even in a dark environment, you can differentiate a living human by the simple fact that that human is emitting heat. They call it heat signature. And what reveals heat signature? Infrared. The infrared, technology. So what Iran simply did was they cast away the idea of radar. They did not look in the direction of radar at all. Instead, what did they do? They focused on infrared and they waited because they knew the Americans would always bring the F-35 to their contested aerial theater, believing that the F-35 was invisible to radar. But the Americans conveniently forgot that the F-35 will emit heat. Have you seen the exhaust? It is not possible for anything that flies to not emit heat because it will generate energy. In fact, if you look at the exhaust, it's usually yellow-red, very hot. Even in the course of flying through the atmosphere, while the fighter jet is making contact with air molecules in the air, naturally, it will generate heat even from the skin. So what did they simply do? They were patient and they looked carefully at the heat signature. And luckily, they were able to lock. They captured the peculiar heat signature of the F-35. After having done that, they locked the infrared onto the F-35 and they took the shot. For the first time ever, the F-35 sustained damage. According to the Americans, they didn't succeed in shooting the plane down. They said that the F-35 in question landed in a Middle Eastern country. They did not mention the country it was. They said that the F-35 has been taken out of commission, that it has taken so much physical, wear and tear from the shoot incident that it may never, or it may have to undergo substantial repairs before it can fly again. They also said that the pilot is okay, but he sustained shrapnel wounds. For the pilot to have sustained shrapnel wounds, the same pilot, according to them, also flew that fighter jet and landed it, even if it was a crash land scenario. You may believe the Americans or not. However, the Iranians have successfully captured the heat signature of the F-35. That is one. Number two, they have successfully taken a viable shot at the F-35. And you can be sure that the next time an F-35 comes their way, in the highly contested aerial theater, they will most likely want to outdo themselves, and this time around, shoot the F-35 down and ensure it lands in the crash scenario. Again, there's a lesson there. Nothing and nobody is invisible or invincible. The F-35 quagmire has essentially been solved. The stealth, glory of the F-35 has essentially been unraveled. And what did it? The Iranians simply thought of the physics of the F-35 in a different way. Instead of looking at the radar, they looked at the heat signature and they successfully took a viable shot at the F-35. Again, don't forget to, to follow, to like, to share, to broadcast, to comment, and ask your questions. I'll gladly answer them. See you in the next video. Thank you very much.